All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a real David and Goliath story. We're talking about Perplexity AI, a startup that thinks it's finally found the secret to take on the undisputed king of the internet, Google Search. So that's the attitude of Perplexity's founder, Aravind Srinivas. You know, every single time Google announces some new AI feature, you can bet the internet immediately declares his company dead. But as you're about to see, he believes that Google's biggest strength is actually its greatest weakness. So, how did this whole thing even start? Well, Perplexity wasn't born from some grand plan to conquer the web. Nope. It actually began as a much smaller, almost accidental project. At first, the team just wanted a better way to search Twitter. That's it. But they pretty quickly realized the real magic was combining these new large language models with a search of the entire web. So they launched this simple little bot on Discord, get this, just a week after ChatGPT exploded onto the scene. And remember, back then, ChatGPT couldn't even access the live internet. Now, look at this number, 700,000. For the founder, this was the big aha moment. It's the number of questions their product got on a single New Year's Eve. Just think about that. While pretty much everyone else was out celebrating, hundreds of thousands of people were choosing to use their slow, buggy, and, let's be honest, terribly named tool. That's when he knew they had something real on their hands. And yeah, this brings us to the billion-dollar, or maybe trillion-dollar question. It just seems impossible, right? A tiny little startup going up against a global monopoly. But according to its founder, Perplexity is really just exploiting a fundamental flaw baked right into Google's DNA. And that flaw has a name. It's called the innovator's dilemma. That's basically when a company becomes so successful that it can't bring itself to chase the very innovations that might one day disrupt it. And for Google, this dilemma creates a massive, massive vulnerability. So here's the core of it, this deep conflict of interest. Google's entire empire, all that money, is built on you clicking links, especially the sponsored ones. But what do you, the user, actually want? You just want a direct answer, right? Well, if Google gives you that perfect answer immediately, it basically kills its own business model. And this created a huge opening. For the first time in a long time, the best AI models were actually being built outside of Google by rivals like OpenAI and Anthropic. So as a startup, Perplexity could move super fast, take big risks, and just grab the best tech out there. Meanwhile, Google, this massive ship that's no longer led by its founders, was forced to be slow, cautious, and risk-averse. Okay, so if Google's this slow, conflicted giant, how does a startup like Perplexity actually fight back? Well, their weapon is simple and relentless: speed. But not just in the way you might think. It really boils down to three obsessions. First, accuracy. An obsession with being the most reliable place to get answers. Second, raw speed, just delivering those answers faster than anybody else. And third, a kind of maniacal focus on the product itself, something that's really hard to copy when you're a giant corporation. And to really get what this obsession means, picture this. Right before a major talk, the CEO, Aravind, noticed a bug in the product. He literally stopped everything backstage to personally figure out what was wrong. Now, that's a level of hands-on focus that a startup CEO can have that the CEO of a trillion-dollar company just can't. But here's the thing. This whole strategy, it's all building towards something way bigger than just a search box. Perplexity's ultimate goal is to create an entirely new category of software. They have this ambitious name for it, a cognitive operating system. So forget just searching for stuff. Imagine a browser that's more like your personal AI assistant, one that understands not just your questions, but your context, your tabs, your history, and can actually take action for you across the web. So how would this actually work? Well, you could tell it to do some complex research, like, say, find me a place to live, and it would just run that whole task in the background. Or, in one example they gave, you could ask it to filter a huge list of event applicants, find all their LinkedIn profiles, and then only accept the ones who meet very specific criteria. It's search becoming an agent. Now, that vision is incredibly ambitious. But let's be real, it also puts them on a direct collision course with the most powerful, most well-funded companies on the entire planet. And we need to be clear about this. The competition is very, very real. Aravind is the first to admit that OpenAI, Google, and others are all trying to build similar features now. Everybody sees the potential, and they are all racing to build it. The giants are definitely waking up. So what on earth keeps him going against those odds? He says he just embraces the fear. He was inspired by watching old videos of Elon Musk during his early struggles, and he adopted a really simple but powerful mindset. You just don't ever give up. You keep building, and you keep moving fast, because that is your only advantage. And that really brings us to the final takeaway here. The odds are long. The competition is unimaginably fierce. But when you have a clear strategy, a founder this obsessive, and a really radical vision for what the internet could be, you just have to wonder, could this actually be the moment the game finally changes?